Hi guys, welcome to SMI of Canada. If you're new here, my name is Julie, and here I talk about everything studying and immigrating. There's a mix of so many things that I have to talk to you guys about. Today I'm going to be sharing my letter of support, the letter of support we used to apply for my husband's application. That's my husband's open work permit application, otherwise known as spousal sponsorship or something like that, and also my daughter's visit visa. So if you're applying for your child's study permit, depending on the age of the child, if the child is less than 4 years old, then the child will need a visit visa. That was what happened in my case. But if you have a child older than 4 years old, the child will need a study permit. But this letter can also be used for your child on a study permit. So I hope that this letter will help you guys to understand how the template works and help you in crafting that winning letter of support. So I will be showing you the letter. Let me start with date. My letter always starts with a date. Remember how formal letters work, so you have to date and put your address if you want, but this was just how we did it when we did it. And then here is the address for the Canadian visa officer. You can also make it as rich as you want. So, letter of support for my open work permit and my daughter's visiting visa. So remember, my husband is the one writing this. So the spouse is the one that should write this letter. Even if you, the student, if you are the one that actually wrote it, make sure you write it in the voice of your spouse. And in our case, we both wrote it together. So it's important you let them know that it's the spouse writing this letter. So I write this letter to provide a full explanation to the purpose of my open work permit application and to introduce myself. My name is ... Also, just like in the video I did for the study permit letter that I used for my application, I blotted out all parts that has my private information just for privacy. And I also always, as I said, I always recommend subtitles for your letters, just so that the visa officer knows where exactly to go if they are looking for something specific, and also so that they are able to, they can fully, briefly, while looking at the title or the subtitle of that portion, they can understand without even reading much. They know what that part of the letter is going to talk about. So it's just, they might not want to read through everything. I believe they do read through from the top to the bottom, but just in case, they have the subtitles to guide them. Now, I always include a letter of explanation for all my Canadian study permit, all my Canadian visa applications, except for our permanent residency application. That's because there was no need for letter of statement of purpose letter, because I believe that because Canadian visa applications are Dropbox applications, so you don't actually get to attend an interview. So if there are discrepancies in your document or there is something you want to talk about, this is the only way you can get it across to the visa officer. That's why I encourage people to just include a letter of support in all their application. This is just my opinion. Okay, so my name is Dash. I'm a Nigerian. I'm married to, he put in my name here because I'm the student, and we have a daughter together. If you have more than one child, put in, we have 2 children, 2 boys, 1 boy and a girl. So name this and name that, so make sure you put in the names of all your children, both accompanying and non-accompanying. I got married to my wife on our wedding date. We've been married for X years now, and our daughter is X year old. The copy of our marriage certificate, my wife's change of name affidavit, family photographs, and our daughter's birth certificate is enclosed. This document, this was not all the document that we attached, but for open work permit application, these documents mentioned here are very, very important. I've heard of people applying for open work permit application. They've applied for open work permit without putting their marriage certificate. Spousal open work permit is all about your marriage. It's all about your relationship. It's all about your partnership. So the only reason why they will be giving your spouse a work permit is because they are married to you. So that's the basis of the whole application. If you don't include a marriage certificate, or if you have a change of name, if you don't include all of that, then the whole application is null and void. Okay, so these are very, very important applications. Like this, you want to show the proof of relationship, because that's what the visa is all about. A visa that allows your spouse to work, a visa that allows your partner to work. Just like your kids also, if you're applying for your kids to come over, then you have to show everything that has to do with them, and it differs. It's based on case by case basis. For instance, if you are not coming with your spouse but you are bringing the kids along, then you have to get a letter from the spouse stating that they are allowing you to take the kids. In fact, without even normally, not just for visa purposes, even if you're flying with a child, if the other parent is not going with that child, then you have to get a letter. Now, if you're divorced or separated or something, you have to get a custody letter from your spouse relinquishing that child to you. These are very important document that has to be included in your spousal open work permit application and your application for your children. Note that I have merged both of them together, so I didn't see any point in having separate letters for all members of the family. So I just had one single letter. We just had one single letter that's for the spousal work permit for the husband and also for our child. So that letter should be okay for all your family members that are accompanying you. So here, the next paragraph, work expertise and experience. With this, visa officer already knows I want to talk more about my husband wants to talk more about his work experience and what he has going for him in his home country. I presently work with Dash, the sole Dash company in Dash part of Nigeria. This all depends on what the spouse is doing. I've been working with the company for X number of years. My CV is attached detailing my work experience and exposure. Letters of support from my supervisors are also attached, and all of these documents were actually attached in the application. Do not mention something that is not attached. Take note of that. And so here we put all the job duties. It was very elaborate, but for the purpose of this video, I just there's no point going into details. That's not like relevant here, because your own job duty will be different. So here you just want to include all your job duties. And this letter is not a must. So there are people that they don't write letters and they get their visa approved, but this is just a method that has always worked for me. So verification of my work activities can be made with Mr. Dash, and then the district network market. We just put in all his supervisors' contact details for the visa officer. Now we move to purpose of travel, and this is where you talk about your intent. What are you going to do? And in this case, because you're applying for a spousal work permit, obviously the spouse is going to reunite with the student, and the spouse is going with the kids, if your kids are coming, to reunite with the student. Note that at this time I had not yet left Nigeria. I was still within Nigeria, but I honestly did not know that this spousal work permit application was going to be so fast. It took 5 weeks, which was very, very fast. So I didn't know that they were going to have their visas ready by the time I was traveling. When we were crafting this letter, we just felt like they will come and meet me when I go. Although I was trusting God heavily that it should click before I leave, but I just didn't know. That's why I wrote here, I'm applying along with my daughter to unite with my wife. So my husband is speaking here. My wife has been granted admission at the University of Dallas, Canada, to pursue doctoral studies. She will be resuming her studies on 1st of September 2019. Before now, I have been supportive of my wife's dreams and educational ambitions, both locally and internationally. You see that? So here he just talked about what I have been doing so far, and if you've watched my video, my letter for my study permit, you will see some similarities in this part of the letter. This was basically extracted from my study permit application, because there I talked a lot about what I've been doing so far. So we just extracted all of this from that part of our letter. So you put in all of this there. So at this place, your spouse wants to talk about what you've been doing. Maybe you've been working back home, maybe you've been studying before, whatever you've been doing, just make sure they talk about it here, so that they know that, okay, you guys have a lot of things going on for you. And we move to this. So knowing how important this PhD position means to her and how crucial it is to her career advancement, I have decided to be there for her in all ways I can. After great thought and consideration, my wife and I have decided that I apply for an open work permit and join her in Canada along with our daughter for the 4 years of her study. As I said, we didn't know that it was going to click before we would travel. So at this point, we thought they would probably have to join me in Canada, but God's so good. It was approved way before I traveled. It was approved in July, and we traveled in August together. So you don't have to. In fact, I encourage you, do not copy this letter word for word. Don't copy it verbatim. Know that there will be several people viewing this letter, this video with you as well. So copying it word for word would not make any sense, but just tweak this letter, write your own story, and just use it as a template to guide you. So our marriage is still at the early stage, and we are a young family. It will be very selfish of me as a husband to demand that my wife sacrifice this wonderful opportunity she has got to stay back home here in Nigeria. All the things that we're writing here is just to show the visa officer why we need to go, why they need to give us this visa, why we are planning to move together. You know, we're trying to appeal to the emotional side of these officers that, you know. So if you're going for, no matter, even if it's a 6 month, okay, like an 8-month program, it does not matter. Families shouldn't be apart. So you can always talk about this part, that you know, you guys want to be together. You don't want your family to fall apart because of distance, you know. So I wrote here, our daughter is very little and just in her formative years. We do not want her to miss out on critical parental love and support for such a long time. Okay, and then we just said, okay, in addition, there is no one to take care of her in Nigeria, as our parents are elderly, and leaving an infant in their care for years will be unfair and burdensome. So we're still, you know, here, these are just sentimental things, you know, that of course they should know this, but sometimes it's good to let them, to remind them, you know, that this is not just one person going to study. This person has a family that will be affected by his or her absence. So that's just what you want to, that's basically what a study open work spousal permit letter, that's basically what it's all about. It's more of like telling them why you need to have your family with you. And remember, we decided to write it this way. We decided to I didn't write a letter because I could have written a letter as well, but I felt it would just be, it would be almost the same thing, because this is what I'll be talking about as well. So we decided that my husband, the principal applicant in this case, will be the one writing this letter, and I will just do it in one letter. Okay, so having our family together during the course of my wife's study will go a long way in sustaining the quality of our family life. It will also provide her the family balance and emotional support she needs for her as a student. Although my wife's admission came with full funding, I'm sure when given a work permit, I will also be able to add to what she's making and support my family financially. My years of experience in the field of XXX will make me relevant to the Canadian economy. Conversely, I will be in a position to acquire more experience in the engineering industry of the Ontario province. You see how he mentioned his experience and how he can come in and how he can be an asset to the provinces going, not a liability. So these are just extra things that you don't have to put it in your letter. If you know, it's just things that we put in our letter. So it all depends on you. So we have decided that I apply through the open work permit route, as I can adapt if need be to secure employment in any available field. Here in Nigeria, in spite of the economic strain, I was very resourceful and diligent. I've worked with the same company for over X years and have successfully mentored new intakes who have gone on to deliver optimum output within the department. I'm absolute I will not be a burden to my family or the nation as a whole. You see the way he put in all the things that he has done. Remember, I put in all the he talked about all the things that I have done in this part, and then now here he's talking about all the things that he has done, so far in his career. Now we move to the breakdown of funds. Here we talked about how much we have. So we have a total of this in our bank saving account, which our father gifted us. The money was transferred. We put a letter of financial support. We didn't notarize it because he's his father, right? So that's like a direct second person sponsorship. So that we felt it wasn't necessary. My wife also has financial support from the university for her 4 years of study. The amount payable is this. Her funding letter is attached. You see how we put proof for all the different funds that we have. For you guys that will have more than one source of funding, maybe from different sponsors, this is how you break it down. In addition, our mother gifted her that naira one of our assets, which is presently fixed and will mature this before resumption in September. The fixed deposit certificate and a letter of support. So we attached this because before, just like 2 days before we sent in this application, my mom terminated the fixed deposit and sent the deposit the money to my account. It was a lump sum, so we had to explain how that lump sum came in. So this letter is very good for using to explain your lump sums. Then total fund available as a family. So this portion is where we now talk about the total amount we have. So naira plus this from school for the funding. This is to show that we have adequate financial provision and our joining her in Canada will not be a burden upon the community or the province. So let me pause here. You know that CIC requires, I don't know if it has changed, but at last time I checked when I was making this video, $4,000 for any accompanying spouse and $3,000 for each accompanying child. So in our case, we needed $7,000. That is apart from the student tuition fee, money, and all of that. So the amount we put here was more than what they needed. So we needed 7,000 for them, and this one is for me. So we had more than 7,000 Canadian dollars, but we put it in naira because we were showing them in naira. So it was just a rough estimate. You don't have to be precise or anything, but at least a rough estimate, because these things, the rates keep changing per time. So just put what you have, and a rough estimate is fine. So now we talked about home tie. In home tie, we just thought about the things that we have. So we know we have, my husband has a pension account, so we talked about that. And then we have here a developed property, we put that in, and we were able to do a valuation of that property. So we said the property is currently under lease to tenant. I have made arrangement for Mrs. Dash, my sister that resides in the same town, to manage the affair of the property till my return. All this till my return just shows that you will go and come back. She will be liaising with tenants and reporting periodically to me during my absence. The property document, land receipt, survey and valuation is attached. Okay. So the recent valuation, you don't have to do valuation if you don't have the money to do valuation. Somebody was able to do it for us free of charge. That's why we did. Honestly, that's why we did it. So I don't know if it was helpful in the actual application or not, but yeah, the recent valuation shows that property is worth -naira. A very important fact is that our elderly parents and siblings are here in Nigeria. Our parents have invested so much in our studies, and so they are also a form of home tie for us, because all our family members are still back in Nigeria, as at that time. So we love them very much and look forward to reuniting with them after the course of my wife's study duration. You see how we talk about home tie. You see how we make sure we were, emphasizing in our return, reuniting, because a study permit application should be done with the intent of not immigrating, of returning, but when you now go on to do a permanent resident application, that's why I didn't have to put in a letter for permanent residency, because we are not trying to prove that we need to return. When you apply for permanent residency, you are telling them you want to stay permanently. So in fact, if you are showing signs like you want to return, maybe you are not applying with all your family members, that could lead to an issue during your permanent residence evaluation. So, but for a study permit, for a spousal work permit, visit visa, and all other categories of visas that are under temporary residence, you need to show intent of returning. That's why you make sure that you have all of that scattered everywhere in your letter. Finally, I believe that these few foreign years of work experience and exposure in Canada will further broaden my horizon and enhance my skill set, thus putting me in a better place on my return to Nigeria. Dear Sir, Madam, we believe that being together is better than being apart. All of these are just our own personal touches that we put in the letter, trying to, tell the visa officer to be compassionate and don't understand that we are a family and we shouldn't be apart. So, also, being apart from one's immediate family can lead to depression and loneliness, which is very, very true. My hope is that you, as an international student, will be able to come here as a with your family and will not have to be depressed and lonely alone in this country. So we therefore kindly request that you grant us this opportunity to be united as a family unit in the course of my wife's doctoral study. We look forward to a favorable reply from you. Thank you sincerely. And then we put our name. And now back to my point. So this was the letter that my husband wrote. I think I said earlier that I did not write a letter, but trying to remember now, because it's been almost 4 years now. I think I did write a letter, but it was very short. And it was still basically the same things. Talked about myself and why I want them to come, what course I'm studying there, and just that kind of thing. So you can, the student can decide to write a letter in support as well, but I feel like one letter should be fine, so you can decide to do it both ways and have the 2 letters. In any case, make sure, just try to make sure that you have at least 1 letter of support for your application. And this is where I'll be stopping for now. Thank you so much for joining on this episode. I hope you've learned a thing or two, and I hope you now feel inspired to craft your own letter. Till the next time, guys, remember to share if you love this video, and like and just show your love. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next time, bye.